I'm Jon Jones. I'm based in Brooklyn, and I'll go to the slide about me. So I specialize in art outsourcing manager. I've been in the video game industry for 15 years. I've worked with Epic Games, 2K Games, Avalanche Studios, and a wide variety of other studios. I've specialized in giving people advice on how to learn how to freelance and contract in their careers, and be able to essentially take control of their own destiny and find out how best to make it an increasingly difficult and challenging field such as game development. And most recently, I was contracted with Epic Games to be the content curator of the Unreal Engine marketplace, where essentially I was the product owner for the biggest competitor to the Unity asset store. And the challenge I was given was you can't accept everything. You have to set a quality standard and for artistic quality, technical quality, and everything needs to actually be genuinely useful and bundled into a small batch of smaller products instead of a single function texture or model or something like that. And you need to make it epic quality. You have a 1-year contract, go, let's see what you can do. So my contract ended in November, and this is the culmination of everything I learned on how to, after having worked very, very closely with developers all over the world, many of which have actually turned selling content online, on marketplaces like this, into a full-time lucrative career, enough that they're able to quit their jobs and do this. So this is everything that I've learned. So I'm going to be going off my bullet points. I'll be referring back to this. So in the last several years, especially since 2010, the Unity launched their asset store, there's been an advent of online marketplaces selling componentized products, targeting indie game developers to try to get them on board with their specific engines. So you don't have to learn every single trade, modeling, texturing, animation, programming, design, production, everything in between, in order to be able to make your own independent game. So the Unity Asset Store is the best game-focused example of this. TurboSquid is the best generalized 3D asset store example of this. But there are many all over the internet, and in the last 5 years, for Unity at least, it's turned into what's reportedly $1 billion business. It's that they actually make more money off of asset store sales than they do off of any kind of engine licensing or revenue, which is absolutely staggering. So a lot of people are really jumping on this. So the benefit of doing this is, as I said, you don't have to learn every single skill in order to bring your ideas to life. You can quickly and inexpensively prototype the things that you want to come to life without having to have perfect broad spectrum skills in everything. You can just wonder, hey, I wonder if this kind of game or this kind of thing would be fun. Go spend $2, $5, $10, $15, $20. You can munge it together, find out whether or not you actually want to proceed with that, and then go from there. So ultimately, it's all about execution of the end product. And the game needs to be fun, and you don't need to spend 3 months learning how to be an amazing animator in order to find out if a game is actually fun or not. So really, these marketplaces have dramatically lowered the barrier to entry for people being able to execute on their ideas, and there are a lot of opportunities that lay within this space. So the first of which, you don't have to have a big budget to be able to start hiring and contracting all these individual people. You can buy them component by component, by actual trained professionals that are designing these components as products specifically for these marketplaces. So from sell sword to selling swords. So a lot of developers are using this as a new, selling content in online marketplaces as a new, lucrative, interesting sideline. They'll work maybe 40, 50, 60 hours a week, as many developers are lucky enough to do. And then they'll go home and start working on things in their free time and think, I'll toss it up on this asset store, that asset store. I'll never use this on any of my projects, and maybe I can make a few bucks off of it. Some people can earn anywhere from anywhere ranging from beer money to $1,000 to $5,000, $10,000 a month, depending on how much time and effort they put into developing these products, marketing them, and supporting them. And there's a direct relationship between how much time you put into it and how much money you can get out of it. But at the very least, a lot of developers are thinking, hey, I learned this, I had an idea at work that I can't use there. I'll work on it as a side project and sell it for others that maybe they could use that, like selling it as like a blueprint for Unreal or a code plugin or something for Unity. So, and that is, aside from that being a lucrative sideline, a small number of people turn this into a full-time job, which is a completely different type of career than the typical full-time, 40 hours a week salaried employment. And it's also completely different from selling your effort and your time developing bespoke content as a contractor. You're essentially selling the tools for other developers to use. And it's different because if you're salaried, they're paying you for your time and to be in a seat. If you're a contractor, you're being paid to develop a specific bill of goods that you can sell exactly once, and that's the end of it. This is developing a tool other developers can use that can be sold many, many, many times. Fundamentally speaking, there is nothing else quite like that. No other type of job function, no other type of monetizable role in game development that is like this right now. And Unity really got a great head start on it by actually selling components of games in this way. And now a lot of other engines like Stingray, for example, in their creative market, they're really going after this as well and trying to get people onto their free engine platform to be able to get a cut of these sales. So I'll get into how you can hop onto big companies' budgets, co-marketing efforts for this. Because honestly, if Autodesk is going to be spending however many millions of dollars developing an engine and trying to get people onto it, if they're spending that money and you show them a bit of interest, saying like, hey, I can make an interesting thing, then hop on this marketplace and provide your content there, let them spend money to promote you because it benefits both of you. There's a lot of smart moves you can make in this place. So, if you want to sell content in this marketplace, you have to ask yourself, what do I do, what are my skills, and what do I actually want to sell? Fundamentally, you're either an artist, designer, programmer, scripter, musician, programmer, or some combination thereof. And you really need to drill down into it from there to find out what your strongest skill set is. So first off, your junk drawer is not hot product. Everybody's first instinct is whatever leftover stuff I have for my independent projects, I can take that and I can just sell it, even though it's like a non-UV mapped sphere. I spent literally seconds creating this in 3ds Max, and somebody will find this useful, I'm certain. Nobody cares. That will never make money, and it's really, really obvious when a very, very small amount of effort went into putting something online that provides actually no value. So I'll go back to my title when I was running the Unreal Engine Marketplace. I was the content curator, and I personally inspected tens of thousands of submissions, and I got to the point where me and my team could take a look at it and say, okay, this was exactly 2 hours worth of work. This is the result of a tutorial, and this is something that's actually an engine feature that's worse than what's already in the engine, and this provides no value to anybody that would want to spend money on this. So you actually have to have a product design focused mindset to create bespoke content for game developers to save them time. Think of it just in terms of an equation. I can spend $10 to save 80 hours worth of work if I buy this thing. If somebody sees if someone just crap that out in the night, no one's going to pay and spend any money on that, and that provides no value whatsoever. So you have to take a consumer and customer focused view of what you want to design and what you have to offer and what you can sell. So yeah, it's obvious when you just cranked out something cheap on a weekend. And you need to create content that fulfills the needs of developers, especially things that annoy them. So if there's something, the more product knowledge you have of whatever engine you're using, Cocos 2D, Unity, Unreal, Crytek, Stingray, if you can identify potential pain points and in whatever you're doing on your own projects, and you've been able to develop some kind of workaround for that, that could be of value to other developers, especially if you can turn that into an easily packaged good that you can sell on one of their marketplaces. And especially if you can get some of that sweet, sweet SEO. So if people are Googling why the F is this happening, you can have some variation of that in your description of the product, and that can be a path to selling that. Identify pain points of developers, things that save them time, things that annoy them, because that's the first thing people are going to want to spend money to make a problem. Spend money on making go away. I can spend a week learning this, or I can spend $5 and never worry about it again. Think about what annoys you, and think about how you can sell that to people like you that are trying to solve the same kinds of problems. And also trying to think of how much that's going to scale. So ultimately, if you're going to be profitable at this, you're going to want to sell to a large audience. So if you're making an incredibly narrow niche type of game and you have the kind of problem that no one else is likely ever to see or understand, that may not necessarily be the best kind of product to sell. Try and find a way to adapt the specific problem you've solved to other popular game types or other more easily relatable needs. And I'll dig into that a little bit more. So focus on your strengths and just be honest with yourself and identify what your strongest skill set is. Some people are fantastic programmers, some people are great scripters, some people are excellent modelers or texture artists or animators. And whatever your strongest skill set is, that is what you should focus on. And you really shouldn't spend an inordinate amount of time trying to build up a skill set to compete with a world full of people trying to succeed at the same thing that you are doing. Just be really, really good at one thing. Try and if you have a reasonably strong secondary skill set, try and bundle that into what you're doing. But don't spend a massive amount of time learning something new just to try to compete to be half as good as people that already were great at it. So start from a position of strength. And don't overscope. Try and solve a narrow band of problems. Don't be, for example, let's say a quest system, dialogue system, like a character creation, customization system. Like don't try to be a very, very broad, don't try to address too broad a spectrum of problems. Try to identify ways you can save time for individual developers and solve the kind of problems that you would like to solve on a component by component basis. Just think of, okay, let's say you're trying to develop a leveling and experience system for a small scale RPG. Are you going to be thinking about things outside of how do I gain experience? How does that get to the character? How does that tie into the quest giving? Just try and encapsulate the problem in such a way that other developers are likely to think along the same path, because they're not going to be thinking, oh, well, I'm trying to solve this problem of creating an XP system. Well, what about pets? Or what about an armor system? Just be narrow, be focused, and try and solve problems in a particular direction. Because the more people think about a certain kind of problem, they think about all the bundles of potential solutions that could lay in that path, and anything you try to add to the product outside of that distracts from the core focus. And yeah, ultimately, just ask yourself, how can I save time for developers? And just lean on your own experience for how that can happen. So, is there a market for this? Ultimately, people that are buying content like this are motivated by things that inspire them, things by their ambition, by their inspiration, by the things that they love, by the games they enjoy playing. And you need to get inside people's heads to find out what they're likely to buy. Like Overwatch was something that people were incredibly passionate about, and a lot of people started creating similar products for that. No worries. So a lot of people started creating similar products for survival type games like that, and outdoor type games, and creating products around that because everyone was really excited about a thing. And honestly, if you're going to be designing products for an online marketplace like this, these are good questions to ask yourself. What excites me? What am I going to be interested in developing? What am I going to be interested in supporting until the end of time? That's something I'll get to a little bit later. And so when you're trying to decide specifically what to do, think in terms of a parts list for a game. So buyers decide on the type of game first, whether it's an RPG, FPS, RTS, an MMO. Honestly, if you're independently making MMO, give up. Don't. Unless you're a trust fund baby and know how to run a studio of 200 people for 5 years, just don't. But people decide, hey, I want to make a game like this, so they pick that type of game first, and that is what drives their purchasing patterns, and that leads to what they're going to buy first. So first, look for popular themes and trends. So crafting, Minecraft, survival, like I was saying, Overwatch, DayZ, like people were going nuts on the Unreal Engine marketplace creating survival kits for like a blueprint crafting kit for a survival type game, or a template for a survival type game, or all the individual tools, like everything from here's a compass, here's a knife, here's a rabbit that you can skin, here's a pup tent, here's all these different things. People get motivated by that because games are popular and they start creating content for that. Adventure, exploration, survival horror, space. Space was interesting because if you all remember last year when NASA released images of Pluto, people went nuts for Pluto. So 3 to 4 weeks afterward, 3 to 4 weeks of development time after the Pluto images came out, everybody was submitting space kits. Like, all right, here are all the planet maps, some of which were ripped off the JPL website. Here's how to create a procedural planet generator. Here's a template for creating a space game. Everybody went nuts for really, really cool science stuff, and everybody was submitting that and wanting to sell it in the marketplace because it was just one of those cultural zeitgeist type things. That is the type of thing that your target market's going to be interested in, and you should try and anticipate things like that and keep your finger on the pulse culturally of what games are coming out, what cool science stuff is happening, and also like what movies are coming out. So pick a niche. You need to start with a genre, theme, style, and platform. So you really can't be all things to all people because you'll fail at all of them. You really need, so as I said, don't overscope. Try and zero in on exactly the kind of customer that you want to reach. Like people that are excited by survival games, people that are really interested in like old school adventure games, like Hyper Light Drifter. I honestly, like for the next 6 to 12 months, I expect to see 1 million ripoffs of that type of thing coming out. So creating creating like environment type kit or a gameplay kit for a game like that is probably a reasonable way to go, depending on how much of a long tail that kind of product has. These are the kinds of things you need to be thinking about and tracking in order to be able to create a customer base. Also look at recent top-selling games to find out what people are most interested in. Granted, these are AAA games. These are not, and AAA studios are not going to be your customers. But indie game developers many times are influenced by ideas in larger AAA games. They try to componentize ideas from that to try to see how much can I do on my own from this kind of thing. That is a source of potential inspiration. So always take a look at what's hot this month, this week, this quarter, what's coming up. Just try and get a sense of the overall broader game market and try and identify what could trickle down and be interesting to your potential customer base. So for popular games and styles, I did a quick breakdown of what type of game it is, what the art style is, and just like the general tone. So Fallout 4, first-person RPG, realistic, post-apocalyptic. Madden NFL 16, sports, realistic style. Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, FPS, realistic war game. Legend of Zelda, The Twilight Princess. Oh, I typoed that? Oh, for God's sake. Third-person RPG, cartoony fantasy. Minecraft, first-person world builder, cartoony retro. This is a way to break down these types of games into styles, into genres, into art styles, and into potential targets to hit. And like I said, be honest with yourself. Which of these interest me? What problems are there that are interesting to solve within each of these? So I'll get into an even more componentized version of that in a moment that actually came to me in the bus on the way up here today. I'm excited about it. So select your audience. Top-selling games aren't the whole picture. Like I said, blockbusters get attention and inspire. Indie games should be a strong focus because those are the people who are going to be spending money on whatever you ultimately sell in these marketplaces. Like Infinity Ward is not going to go to the Unity Asset Store and start purchasing content. It's just never going to happen. They have large teams and large budgets. They need to justify that, and they, for better or for worse, they fetishize bespoke content. I think that larger studios could do a lot better to actually take advantage of asset stores and online marketplaces like this. Currently, they don't. So realistically, your customers are indie game developers. And just get close to the indie community and listen, find out what problems they're having, what excites them, what interests them, what's new, what's coming out. Embed yourself. And keep an eye on geek culture. Like what's the next big movie come out? Like it's like I was saying, space excited people, Deadpool excited people. I saw a lot of blood and gore VFX packs coming out when that came out, just because people came out of the movie thinking, yeah, blood, guts. Just like movies like that, interesting new comic books, new Star Wars movie. Everybody started getting excited about sci-fi again. These are the kind of things that inspire people and make them want to purchase content. And if you can identify one of these coming up, and you can release your content day and date with something like Star Wars, and it's in it's like a modular environment art kit that's in a sci-fi-ish style, people will see that it's new and think, oh crap, I want to make a game like that. Because Star Wars came out and I'm pumped. I've seen it 15 times in theaters already and I'm ready to spend more money. These are the kinds of ways that you dig into your market and identify what these needs are and how you can succeed within them. What's NASA doing? People love Pluto. So these things directly drive submissions and drive sales. Because like I said, I saw every single thing that came in the Unreal Engine marketplace, for better or for worse. and I'm deeply connected in the entire community of content creators, and I see what goes on the Indie Asset Store, what goes on TurboSquid, what goes on Design Connected, what goes on CG Trader. I see what people are interested in, and I see the ebbs and flows because it was actually my job to. So pay attention to this and learn when to zig, when to zag, and you can really carve out an opportunity for yourself if you surround yourself with the types of people that are excited by this and carefully follow news sources that can give you a bead on where to be, where to hit, where to start selling, and what to develop. So, reduce the game to components. Fallout 4 components, minus art and audio. Character creation, customization UI. Combat, weapon types, enemy types, damage. Armor, weapons, XP leveling, vendors, minimaps, speech and branching dialogue systems, quest systems with quest givers, ties in XP and leveling, speech, etc., AI, stealth, locking and unlocking doors. Each one of those represents at least one product just on the Unreal Engine marketplace. People have componentized RPGs down to the point where they actually sell each one of those from anywhere from $5 to $50. Some of them are actually full-on kits for selling blueprints. So let's say you want to make an RPG. One of these kits for the RPG starter kit, $125. It represents almost every single one of those bullet points in all of those systems and convenient interface to be able to create your own game based on that. This is the way to start looking at games, to break them down in components and trying to think of what problems people are trying to solve in their own projects. And each one of these bullets is a specific need that you can target, that you can develop products off of. So go online, analyze your competitors, find out how well do each of these products review. One of the big things is customer service. I mean, people like people that support their products, and they will harass them to the end of the earth, even if they only spend $5. Not every single one will do that, but to some extent, it's a thing. Being responsive to the people that spend money on your content is important. And other developers that know how things should work and expect them to work will be very, very vocal. So you can find ways to create advantages for yourself and to improve upon existing products based on any bullet point like this. Based on this person never responds, or the UI for this is broken, or this isn't implemented well, it doesn't have these features, I wish it had this. Listen to what people are complaining about and find out what you can do better if you want to enter that market and really overtake them. Being more responsive, offering a better feature set, and even being potentially competitive on price will basically help push you forward and help you overcome all these things that people are kind of figuring out. This whole presentation is intended to be a holy grail for people that want to succeed at this, and I've seen thousands of people do this. I'm boiling it down to do this. You can crush people if you just listen to this and think of how to compete on these small levels that nobody else is really thinking about. So how do I build it? So here's an example of components for an FPS, and each one of these is a product on the Unreal Engine marketplace. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to be putting the slides on my website. I'm going to include a link to all of these. So for, I believe, less than $500, you can have a multiplayer FPS blueprint starter kit that has all the systems, all the behavior that you would expect in a multiplayer game, including scoreboards, chat, actual basic networking code built on top of the existing what's existing in Unreal Engine. You can have a level prototyping kit, a rigged sci-fi character animations that go on the UE4 skeleton, procedural weapon sets, modular buildings and industrial props, VFX packs for gunfire, explosions, and blood, sound packs for weapons, characters, etc., music pack for dramatic score, and honestly, music packs are huge everywhere because musicians are looking to find any way to monetize the things they've been doing for decades, and musicians tend to have more of a back catalog of content than any other type of content creator because they are completely independent of medium. And the really, really good audio designers actually design and musicians design their content specifically for games, but you can find almost any kind of game music imaginable, and to be able to get the right kind of tone you want for your game. Also, modular UI pack for a menu system. So for $500, you can basically have a full multiplayer FPS that looks and behaves pretty damn well. All you have to know how to do is be able to link all those things together. And each one of those is a top selling product that makes thousands of dollars per month. So how do I price it? This is the one thing I was never allowed to answer when I worked at Epic, because the policy was let the market sort it out. And to some extent, I am still going to dance around it a little bit, but I'm going to go into what I learned about pricing theory. So there are no rules, and everything derives from unit-based pricing. How many for what price? Okay, I'm going to get 50 rocks for $50. That's $1 a rock. Well, what if I get this other pack that's 25 rocks for only $5? Like, the price is so much lower. That it is literally an apples and oranges comparison, because there's so many other factors that go into it, like quality or usability, like whether or not there's like associated behavior. Like, there's some rock sets that had procedural Y-up Moss vectors. So you could basically throw these rocks like into UE4, and whichever way you rotated them, moss would always grow on it the correct way. And you could even randomize that across the entire level. Like, that's extra behavior that's added in. It's literally, automatic, or you can just flip a switch. And that is cool as hell, but that's not going to be represented in a per unit price. The first thing people are going to ask is how much, how many for how much. And honestly, it's depressing, because when I ran the marketplace, we also tested, and so everything that may have passed our first quality barrier, we would actually take an UE4 and test and find out, like, does this not suck? Does it do exactly what they promised it would do? Like, what additional behaviors are there in this that they may not have conveyed clearly? Because game developers are not inherently salespeople by nature. They may have, like, you could have like a quiet genius that just does not know how to sell things to save their life, but they make the most brilliant, incredible work conceivable. So a lot of incredible functionality and things can sort of fall into the cracks if they're unable to demonstrate it properly, and if all you're going by is screenshots or a video, and they don't know how to convey all the customization options, then you're not really getting the full picture. So that leads into conveying value. Focus on the compound effort and the amount of time you can save. Let's say a modular cave set of 50 pieces that can be combined in any number of ways that essentially could create, let's say, like 10,000 different arrangements of cave, depending on the materials you use that are also included, or depending on the different blueprint behaviors. It's basically like a modular cave system you can manually assemble or create procedurally. That creates tens of thousands of possibilities. So at that point, once you have how many for how much number, when you multiply it into the thousands or show how much that effort is compounded, that kind of breaks the, oh God, I can't math this that easily anymore. It's more possibilities than I can really comprehend. And that's where people start to get a little bit more of a sense of value, depending on how well you can convey that. Compound effort is everything. Give people knobs, give them sliders, give them dials, give them randomizing options. Show them all the different things this one thing can do. Even if it's only 10 pieces, there are a million combinations, and people love that. They eat it up, right? Because it is genuinely useful. Because even, okay, let's say you're thinking of, should I spend $75 on this material pack for this one project? Oh, well, actually, there are material randomization options, and this pack is updated over time. I could use this for future projects really, really easily, and I can see all the different things I might want to do in the future. That, to me, as a consumer, makes it instantly more valuable, and I'm more likely to spend that money on a higher price point. It's a huge thing. Being able to have a really clean, nice UI, showing people, like, okay, tick this box, tick that box. One example that comes to mind is a modular fence system, where it's a spline-based fence system. So you click and draw a spline, and it immediately draws the fence. And using checkboxes, you can have barbed wire going straight up, facing in, facing out. You can add a gate. You can add like a middle bar. You can change, the type of grading that's on it. It's literally all checkboxes. And all that was conveyed in, I think, a 2.5 minute long video, and it sold like crazy. It was so simple and so easy to do. Click, draw, check, check, check. You could do a million things with just this fence system. Just think of any FPS. Any FPS is going to have this fence system, and if you can have like collision baked into that as well, there's also procedural based on what you do, based on the way you draw it, and based on the inherent door behaviors. That is money. People love that. So ease of use and like a simple configuration options and easy UI, people love that. They just want to save time. They just want to achieve a thing. They just want to get it done and not have to worry too much about it. They want to think like, oh God, I'd have to do all this myself. Just forget that. Click, draw, done. That's what drives purchasing behavior. So yeah, this weapon set provides millions of random materials and weapon add-ons. Another example I saw was a modular sword system. So not only, so it had a randomized hilt, randomized guard, and a randomized blade. So there are maybe 15 to 30 options for each of those, but they were randomized when they spawned into the world. So you had like thousands and thousands of options. In the video, they just had a randomizing emitter just at the top of a room, and over the course of like 45 seconds, the room filled to the ceiling with completely unique weapons swapping between all of these things. Like, look, it is literally a dump truck load of randomized weapons dumping into your world, and shit, guys, it's $20. That's amazing. Pardon the profanity, I promised my girlfriend I wouldn't. So additionally, add tutorials and professional quality documentation. Anything over, I'll go into more detail on this a bit later, but anything above $50 is gonna require a really good video and documentation, because that, between $30 and $50 is when people start to get a little bit pickier. Like $30 and under, impulse buy. I mean, $30 to $50, people are a little bit pickier. $100 and up, a lot pickier. The more polished your presentation materials are, the more likely you can make that sale. And you'd be surprised what can sell for above $100 when most things on like Uni Asset Store are probably between $3 and $10. So really, how much should it cost? And yeah, man, I jumped ahead of the slide mentally. One thing that is really important is if you're going to be selling in other territories, which you certainly will, because the U.S. really isn't even the largest territory for sales like this. I found Europe and Russia and South America were shockingly large. But if you're selling over in Europe, you have the value-added tax added into the base purchase price of anything you have. And averaged out over all of those territories, it varies between, I think, 19, 25%. Split the difference. You're going to have about a 23% markup by default when you sell in those territories. And not everybody understands that. And I've said on many occasions, if I found a magic lamp in a genie that would grant me wishes, my first wish would never to have to explain VAT to anyone ever again, because I've done it hundreds of times. I've written so many email templates. Everyone in Europe thinks, hey, they're jacking up the price for everybody, like everybody in Europe. It's like, no, literally everything in Europe costs this much more, and the price is baked in. You're just seeing what Americans advertise the price are. This is not price gouging. This is how tax works over there, and sorry. So like always factor that in mind when you're dealing with these psychological price points. 30 and under, impulse. 50 and above, really good. You need to have really good documentation. 100 and above, great documentation, presentation materials, and support. So what makes a good video? So first off, it's a commercial, not a tutorial. I prefer my preference is 90 seconds ideally. Yeah, between 90 and 120 seconds long. It needs to demonstrate, okay, what is this? How do I do it? What are the configuration options? Like what knobs, what dials, how can I tweak this to do what I want? Just get straight to the point, edit it. Oh my gosh, I've seen so many people submit videos where they make a mistake in their own product and go, oh crap, oh no, undo, and then try it again. They don't re-edit it. This is not this is not an uncommon thing. Edit it, be really tight, like have it be between 90 and 120 seconds long and just get straight to the point. And begin with examples of the finished product, demonstrate the content in the editor, show the controls and configuration options, entice them with interesting possibilities, show the different cool configurations you have. Like, hey, if you hit this checkbox, you can randomize between all these different materials. If you can even tie it to, depending on where it is on the X, Y, or Z axis, it can actually blend in and out of these material types. This is how easy it is to do. It's never been that easy before. Just show them how they can do that based on the genre type of game that you've chosen to target for this, and do multiple takes to edit out mistakes. Some of the review sessions I've had have been comical. I can't go into any more than that. But yeah, please edit well. So how do I build a loyal user base? This is where I can dig into the community aspects of it. Because ultimately, you're going to be selling to people that are like you, people with the same passions, same interests, same problems they're trying to solve, working with the same tools, and trying to achieve the same goals. I've long believed that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and the 5 people you spend the most time with should all be aligned toward the kind of thing that you want to and love to do. And ideally, they will be in like the indie game community and the communities of people that are selling content online like this. So find those people, identify them, cut out negative people, and spend all of your time digging into that and being a part of them. So join forums, get invited to all the Slack chats and Skype chats you can. Be everywhere, be present, even if you're just lurking sometimes. Just have some kind of presence there. And don't always be trying to sell your content. Try and be a positive member of your community. Try to participate with people. Try to help them solve their problems. Talk to them. Be a part of the community, not just some guys swooping in trying to make a buck. Because people can really tell the difference, and people are a lot more likely to purchase content from people that they know and trust and like and integrate with in their community on a regular basis. It makes them a lot more comfortable, gives them a lot more faith, especially if you're cool, because if your product breaks, they know like, hey, he's in this channel all the time. I'm gonna, I'll have him sort it out. It's like no big deal. That's instead of like, I haven't gotten an email response from this person in forever and I have no idea where they hang out. That actually does directly affect sales. The way you operate in the community is very, very important. Find and create Twitter lists. Honestly, finding Twitter lists is really, really huge. There are a million of them for indie game dev, broken down along like the types of games you're creating, the types of engines you're using, basically everything. Just ask your friends for the best Twitter lists, follow them, favorite, retweet, talk to people, get yourselves involved there and in the forums, Slack chats, and the Skype chats. Just be there, create that kind of presence, because that builds credibility. And the longer you're there, the longer you build that credibility over time, the more likely they are to purchase your content, the more likely they're going to be to trust you when you're selling this content, instead of just swooping in out of nowhere and being an unknown quantity. Facebook groups are also excellent. But yeah, just be everywhere. You can spend less than 30 minutes to an hour a day on this, but this is one of the strongest differentiators that you can really have when you're trying to achieve something like this. So embed yourself and publicize. Make friends with other content creators. They are potential partners and collaborators. Not everybody is trying to do exactly the same thing you're doing selling content on these marketplaces need to be a competitor. One of the things I used to do is try to find people that have similar content. Like, so that FPS blueprint, or that multiplayer FPS parts list that I posted earlier, several of those people actually paired up together and started creating products together for sale, because they found out like, hey, my level prototyping kit works really well with your multiplayer FPS blueprint. Like, we should work on stuff together. They're actually doing game jams, working on games together now. You can find collaborators for both selling content and in your own games projects based on how well your content fits. And embedding yourselves with people that are doing this is a really smart way to help achieve your own goals and meet your own ends, as well as helping others get there as well. And plus, there's always going to be someone smarter than you and better than you, and you should just attach yourself to them at the hip. Don't be annoying, just listen and learn. Emulate them, learn from them. People love work logs and Twitch streams. I have a lot of friends that do Twitch. I have a lot of friends that do Twitch streams that have actually created quite a following for themselves and scored contract work, full-time work, and gotten a lot of publicity and promotion for the things they're doing, just because they open up Twitch and then they just model buckets, and people love that. So like having those work logs and having that kind of presence, even if you're not directly interacting with other people 24/7, even if you just have like an art blog that you post on pretty regularly, is a way to establish that kind of presence and give people more options to discover the kinds of things that you're developing and what you do. The more paths to discoverability to you, your services, your projects, and your content, the better. Always engage. Be active both before and after the release, because I've seen a lot of people be really active in engaging with the community leading up to the release of their content. And then as soon as it's released, they disappear. And I've actually kicked people off the marketplace for not supporting their content, because that's part of the agreement for being on the marketplace. So they have like 200, 300, 400 posts in their threads, like, all right, it's out, and bye. They never hear from them again. I'd get angry emails, I'd send very angry emails, and I actually pulled people off the marketplace entirely just because they weren't providing support, they weren't engaging with their fan base, they were getting bad reviews for the lack of support and the lack of communication they were giving people, and they torpedoed the reputation they spent months building up. and they just did an awful job of it. It is really, really important to be there and be present. So analyze other creators' work. Look for potential team-ups. Look for opportunities for co-marketing. Like I was saying, the level prototyping kit and the multiplayer FPS kit, that was excellent. Read the reviews. See how they interact with their user base. Are they thankful? Are they quick to respond? Are they contentious? Are they argumentative? It's like, no, you're stupid. You're not using this thing right that I didn't document. You're terrible. No, I'm not giving you a refund. No, just people pay attention to that. For every one person that will take the time to respond or leave a review, there are 10 people that are watching just as intently that don't actually say anything. So that is a really valuable thing to keep in mind when you see how people are responding publicly to your potential competitors and your potential collaborators' work, both in forums and in reviews. Like, how good are they with other people? What can you learn from that, both positively and negatively? How well they support their content. Do they regularly update it? Do they respond to questions and feedback? One thing I encouraged on the Unreal Engine Marketplace was creating support threads for your content. So instead of having a million different places for people to email you or contact you, like through your personal email, through your forum account, through your website, through your LinkedIn, through your blog, through your Skype, through your Twitter, through your Facebook, have a single support thread that you answer everybody's questions in, because it makes your job a hell of a lot easier. And it also shows everybody that's potentially going to buy your product, like, wow, that person responds within like an hour to any kind of question they have. Like, that's a really, really good thing to put out there, and a good thing to observe in other people, just for best practices, and to occasionally develop the anti-role model. And do they regularly release new content, which is a very excellent thing to do. So ultimately, where do you sell it? Unreal Engine Marketplace, the Unity Asset Store, TurboSquid, CG Trader, Design Connected, Gumroad, the Stingray Creative Market. There are many online marketplaces for this, and they're all worth researching. Find out, where are the gaps, what's good, what's bad, what can I compete with, what scares me utterly, and how can I learn from that? And really just dig into each of these marketplaces to find out where you may potentially belong. Spend like half an hour on their forums reading through what people are saying, how responsive they are. Just get a sense of the shape of the community, and also, most importantly, how well these companies moderate these communities and how involved they are. Because like I was alluding to earlier, a lot of these marketplaces are trying to drive business toward their engines, and they have full-time community management staff that want people in their engine, and they actively promote content in these marketplaces to help people develop the games that they want and help meet their needs. So if you can find, I did that heavily. My entire job was at Epic was doing that, identifying people, promoting them, and helping build them up, get them on the front page of the marketplace, do interviews with them, get them on the Twitch stream. It was a huge thing that Epic did that I really, and continues to do, that I really respect. But each one of those, so let's say you find a marketplace that is underserved in a particular area that is that's one of your specialties. Let's say you're excellent at scripting and designing a specific type of thing, and on this marketplace you see nothing. And on their forums you see, wow, these people at Autodesk or Unity or wherever are really, really responsive to this kind of thing. Maybe there's an opportunity for promoting my content there. And maybe there's even a possibility of them paying me to develop this content. Many of these places actually are trying, especially the newer ones, are trying to pay developers to seed content to fill these marketplaces with. So if you can identify a particularly active marketplace like this with a really responsive staff that seem really into having you on there, it's worth taking that discussion private and seeing if you can get some subsidies for developing content for that. People are willing to make a deal. So set up a support structure. This is the biggest life-saving thing you can do. Create a dedicated support email address for your content when you release it. Oh my God, it has to be separate from your normal email, and you have to check it regularly. You do not want these streams crossing. Because when I was working at Epic, I was at GDC when they announced that Unreal Engine went free, and they gave every Unreal Engine licensee a $30 credit to my store. So over the course of, I think, 30 days, I got somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 emails and notifications across 15 different social networks I had some kind of presence on. because I didn't have a single clear focus place for everybody to try to funnel communication toward me. I was literally getting text messages at midnight on a Friday from someone asking how to sell content on the marketplace. I still have no idea how they got that number. So if you're selling content, create one place for them to go. Have a dedicated email address, because some people won't do the support thread. I think it's a smart idea, some people won't. Have one email address and funnel people toward that and maintain it. This will make you look more professional and will also help maintain your sanity, which will help you continue to appear professional, because nobody likes dealing with crazy people. So set up a basic ticket support system: Freshdesk, Zendesk, and Desk, in order of increasing cost. On the Earl Engine Marketplace, we used Zendesk, which is quite good. So it's having a catch-all email address where people can send in support requests and tickets that goes into a queue that you can then address is a very smart way to stay organized and appear professional, especially if you can keep up with it, especially if your sales get above a certain volume. You can't individually manage all your email through Gmail or whatever other email client you have. It looks professional, it is professional, it's a smart way to organize if the volume gets above a certain level. So it's definitely something to consider. I've seen a couple of the more savvy marketplace sellers actually move in that direction, and I highly recommend it. It surprised me that they had that kind of volume, and I thought, more power to them, that's great. So yeah, these are cheap, smart ways to stay organized. It shows that you're professional, shows that you will support them, and it leads to better sales, better feedback, and repeat customers. So this stuff is money. So in the US, form a new company for your business. Form an LLC. In New York State, I think it costs, I just did this a few months ago, I think a couple $100. I went through LegalZoom.com. It's basically a wizard for forming an LLC. Do all of your business through that. It'll keep your taxes simple. It'll keep everything organized. And it'll keep you safe in case of any weird legal thing that could ever come up. And realistically, it's just a smart thing to do if you're doing any kind of business in that way. Just like set it up, maintain it minimally, and make sure all your checks are going to that LLC. And just Google around online for more information resources. When I post the slides and the full text of the speech, I have a link that explains what an LLC is, what the advantages are, and why you should do that. So respond to and acknowledge customers quickly, even if you don't have a satisfying answer for them. In so many cases, people that are really, really angry, so they wait until it boils over. They get very angry. They send you a very angry, very hateful email. You may not necessarily be able to address their concern or even make them happy or even cool them down, or give them the answer they want. But what will cool them down more than anything, almost guaranteed, is simply giving them a timely response, even if it's just acknowledging them, even if it's not giving them what they want. This goes so far toward diffusing people that are really over the top. 9 times out of 10 where I've had this happen or seen this happen, people will calm down and apologize and realize, oh God, I'm talking to a people. And I really came off poorly. I am so sorry. Thank you for responding to me. I was frustrated. I've been banging my head in this for days. I appreciate you getting back to me. Even if you can't solve their problem right then and there, just acknowledge it quickly, bite the bullet, even if you think it's going to be a terrible interaction. It will turn out better than you think most of the time, and acknowledging it is absolutely critical. I cannot emphasize that enough. Release something every month, if at all possible. Keeping a regular release schedule and keeping up those marketing beats will keep your productivity high, and each subsequent release will help re-promote your earlier content as you develop a content library. So if you're constantly releasing something every month, you'd be really surprised at what a long tail of sales your previous content can generate over time if you're continuously releasing that content. It also helps keep you motivated and keep you on target by choosing 4-week chunks of time to develop a thing of a certain size in. It'll get you more disciplined in what you're developing and how, and give you a clear idea of how to scope, what to do, and it'll keep you in people's eyes longer and longer. So every 4 weeks, just release something. Over time, you'll realize, holy crap, I have a product catalog and I'm pulling in $5 to $10 grand a month passively. There are a lot of people that are doing that. It is genuinely surprising. And again, none of this is proprietary information. These are just, I know so many people that are doing this, and I've seen the numbers, and it is really surprising. There's still, in the minority, but enough people are doing this, that's the kind of passive income they can make just from having had 10, 15 things released over the course of a year or two. It's pretty amazing. Selling content is a great marketing vehicle. Whether you're even completely aside from selling the content to help developers, you can draw their attention toward your services. Like if you're a contractor and that's how you make a living, and you can sell content on the marketplace and have that be an example, basically a living, purchasable portfolio piece for what you're able to do to either get contract or full-time work. You can also use it to help promote whatever game or project you're working on. One person I know making a game called Abatron was actually, as he's developing the game, componentizing everything he's developing for that game and selling it bit by bit on the Unreal Engine marketplace, and using that both partially to fund his game and pay his team, but also to work with Epic to get promotion for his game, which in the lead up to it being released. So he's actually monetizing his game before he has even released it, and he's getting Epic's marketing dollars behind him to do this. So even if you're not making that much money from the content that you're selling on these marketplaces, you're taking advantage of these huge companies' marketing budgets and willingness to drive interest toward their engine, their services, and the cool things people are doing with it. You can have them pay to promote your game and your stuff and you as a person. Like even if you're making like $5-10 a month selling actual marketplace content, you're getting so many eyeballs on your work. Like that can be honestly even more lucrative and even more of an opportunity for success than simply making money selling that content. I've seen a lot of people do this, and that is, honestly, that's the most important thing I had to say at this entire presentation. Like, get these people and get these big companies money to spend money getting eyeballs to look at you and what you want them to look at. That is massive. So, yeah, just make yourself look in demand and hireable, and work with marketing, work with the press, and just try and highlight these different marketplaces and places to sell your content to find people that are willing to make this kind of deal and potentially spend money on you. Also, if you are a contractor and you're working with your various clients, one way to open yourself up to an entirely new market of indie developers that may not have as much money to spend as fully capitalized developers is just negotiate away exclusivity. By that I mean, when you're developing content for them, try and think of ways you can put that on a marketplace and sell that as its own standalone content. And tell the person, and tell your client, like, hey, I will give you a 20 or 30% discount on the rates that I charge if you let me pick and choose, or if we agree on which content I can sell on my own on these marketplaces to be able to make money. So you're opening yourself up to a market of people that have money but not as much, and they're willing to deal away the exclusivity of having that content in their game, so you can actually get paid for that work twice. Once for the work for hire, and then again, potentially infinitely for the content that you develop for them, that you're paid for, that you're selling on these marketplaces. And you'd be surprised how willing people are to negotiate for this kind of thing, especially if they just want to get a game done and the exclusivity does not matter to them. This is a whole new pool of money you could be tapping into. So that's, again, money. Yeah, and like I said earlier, the guy developing an Abatron game, sell the content from your game to be able to generate interest in your game and to be able to help fund the game as it goes. Like, this is like a huge sci-fi epic, and this guy was selling VFX from the game, like VFX explosions and muzzle flashes and all sorts of other things. It's not giving away a massive amount of the game. It's something, he identified components that are useful to absolutely every kind of game you can imagine. And he's one of the top sellers. He makes great money doing. He's getting great PR for his game. He's helping keep his guys paid, and he's not selling out his game. He's not selling out his soul. Because I mean, honestly, are you going to be? If you're playing a game and you see an explosion looks familiar, you're like, oh, the hell with that. Delete, uninstall, 1-star rating. I saw that explosion in this other thing, and that's terrible. And how dare he not have money? That's actually something a lot of people are afraid of. Because they're familiar with these marketplaces and this content that they see in their friends' indie games, they assume the entire that their entire end user base, their entire market is going to recognize this. Most people are not game developers, and most of the people that are going to be playing the content that you create ultimately are not going to recognize this content. Only people creating the content will notice, and only those people will care. And in all this time, I've seen one review that one game developer gave one obscure game because he recognized a single piece of marketplace content and he complained that it wasn't custom made. Like a tiny scrappy indie game. He's like, why didn't they spend what he didn't know was the equivalent of $50,000 doing this? I saw this thing and another thing, and this is cheap. Who cares? If your game is fun, just that's the kind of guy that doesn't get further than his mom's basement door. It's just to be brutally frank. But when you're developing content for marketplaces like this, nobody cares about the exclusivity thing but you, ultimately. And that's something I had to field. That was the number 2 most frequent question I was asked behind, what's VAT? So that is my presentation. That's how to sell content in an online marketplace and work with others and be pretty kick-ass at it. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.